I got your email about so I think the response if staff has, I can send an email to Karen, which who I know is dealing with.
I got Anthony's iPad. It says I got Anthony's
I know, you know
iPad.
what? They all, we all say that.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
If you recently signed it to Anthony's iPad.
And if they do, I'll deal with them remotely.
Start the North Branford Town Council meeting for Tuesday, February 20th, 2018 at 7:06 p.m. Start first with salute to the flag. And just a moment of silence for Commissioner Fran Leskovich and Officer Mark Gary, who both passed away this week. Thank you. Roll call.
Mayor Duty.
Get here.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni.
Here.
Councilor Cantora.
Here.
Councilor Diamond.
Here.
Councilor Fawnin.
Here.
Councilor Miller.
Here.
Councilor Rose.
Here.
Councilor Biglione.
Here.
And Councilor Zampiano.
Here.
I'd like somebody to make a motion to move item number 6 up.
I'd like to make a motion to move item 6A, the civilian award presented by the North Branford Fire Department, up to before the minutes.
Second. Okay, next is civilian award presented by the North Branford Fire Department. Chief?
Good evening, and I appreciate moving the agenda item up. It's not that often that we get to recognize civilians in our community for the work that they do, and I would like to point out that based upon a recommendation to the Board of Fire Commissioners, we would recognize 2 civilians this evening for their actions at fire-related incidents. And the first presentation is to Mr. Dino Esposito. On the 13th of December of 2017, the fire department responded to a large structure fire on the property of 106 Mill Road, Lover's Farm. And we had a pretty substantial structure fire. And based upon the very cold temperatures that day and the very strong wind, we were able to minimize the damage. But most importantly, in order to get at the seat of the fire, we really had to deconstruct the burning structure. So with that, we had cooperation from the property owner, and Mr. Dino Esposito volunteered to operate construction equipment on the property while we extinguished the fire. And he did so at his own personal risk. So based upon that and a recommendation to the Board of Fire Commissioners, Dino, would you like to come up, President? So this public service commendation is presented to Dino Esposito for outstanding cooperation, teamwork, and personal actions. At alarm number 9415 on December 13, 2017 to Augers Barn at 106 Mill Road. His actions thereby uphold the highest tradition of the fire service. So Dino, thank you for your service. The second civilian I'd like to recognize, again on behalf of the Board of Fire Commissioners. The fire department responded to another cold incident on a Saturday night on the 6th of January 2018 to Rose's Orchard property at 33 Branford Road. The units responding found an injured person, actually Tyler Rose's brother, and had been involved in a snowmobile accident. And as a direct result of Tyler's actions in stopping the bleed, I have to say that he probably saved his brother's life. That's pretty substantial. So as a result of Tyler's actions, the Board of Fire Commissioners once again presents, Tyler, come on up. So on behalf of the Board of Fire Commissioners, we'd like to present Tyler with a public service commendation presented to Tyler Rose for outstanding cooperation, teamwork, and life-saving actions on an emergency medical incident, alarm 0152, on January 6, 2018, Rose's Orchard, 33 Branford Road, thereby upholding the highest tradition of the fire service. Tyler, great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
We'll move into the minutes of the previous meeting. Motion to accept
So moved.
February 6, 2018 Water Pollution Control and regular town council.
So moved.
Second.
Any corrections? Seeing none, roll call?
Mayor Duty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Candelara.
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Counselor Viglione.
Yes.
And Counselor Zampiano.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move into the regular town council minutes or meeting. Reports of committees, boards, and commissions. Economic Development Commission. No meeting. Park and Rec.
The next meeting is next Tuesday, the 27th.
Police Commission.
They met on the 13th, and there was a couple things that were mentioned. Officer of the Month was Officer Redente. 2 officers received some pats on the back for a good job with some burglaries, and that was Officer Anderson and Deco. And the biggest part of the meeting ended up being the town attorney explaining to the whole commission how it should operate based on the charter and so forth. And he did an excellent job. And I would recommend he do that to the council if need be, and any other commissions. He did a really nice job with it.
Fire Commission.
There was no meeting.
Board of Education and Town Council Communications Subcommittee.
No meeting.
Town Plan and Goals Subcommittee.
The Town Plan and Goals Subcommittee met this evening at 6 p.m. We're developing a 5-year plan for major equipment infrastructure, so that hopefully we don't have this kind of thing where once a month somebody comes to us with a problem with a piece of equipment. It's quite expensive, it needs to be repaired or replaced, and we'd have some kind of a 5-year plan where we're gonna work on the plan, on the actual format itself, and then meet with department heads. It'll probably involve about 5 departments and also the Board of Education. We're meeting again on the 27th of March.
Public Safety Communications Committee.
No meeting.
Planning and Zoning.
Yeah, they met, but it was a pretty quiet meeting.
East Shore Health District Department.
Yeah, Director Mike Pascarilla, Alex Sonati were present, and were explaining some of the state ordinances or laws that they're changing regarding salons and building new salons, and also the old salons, and how they're bringing them up to the new standards. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Town Manager's Report. Review for construction work requirement, Police Commission.
Yeah, this is an item that came up at the Police Commission meeting on January 8th. I have a memo in the packet for you. Just outlines their action in terms of looking at construction work requirement policy, possibly ordinance, I think otherwise known as open manhole ordinance, with respect to public safety along roadways. So it just came in the form of a one-page that I think was lifted from 2 other towns. I had an opportunity to speak with Commissioner Miller about the issue, and we'll continue to talk with him along with the chief as well to better understand what their goal is and what they're trying to do. I also had copied in there for you the fact that the town does have a ordinance on the books, Chapter 201, Streets and Sidewalks, Road Construction. This covers the opening of a road and/or the area and the right-of-way. It does not go far enough to talk about, say, utility work or tree work or work within the roadway that might impede or might impinge upon the safety of traffic going through. So I think that's their goal. I'm going to continue to work with them. I just wanted to bring this to your attention. Mayor, I believe you asked for it. So I'm researching this and getting some information, and I think also working with the town attorney to see where we could implement this within the current ordinance, if it makes sense. And of course, it's not an action item tonight, but more of an informational point. If the council wants to weigh in and wants to certainly commit or send comments to me, that would be fine. I'm just really starting to scratch the surface of this process and trying to understand what their goal is for that. And I believe it's a safety issue that's been observed by some of the commission members, that these work crews, for lack of a better definition, pop up along roadways without flagmen or officers to direct traffic. And I'm not sure how prevalent that is, but I think we'll be in contact with the police department to find out how far they want to go with this. So obviously it's got to come to the council, and certainly if the council feels it's important as well, I'll continue to research and bring back their thoughts on this item.
Okay, next
Now,
I,
I just have one, while we're on the subject of police commission, just another item that came up. They had received furniture from North Haven in terms of console for their dispatch center, and which is a gift, which is great, and it's very helpful to the department. But in the future meeting in March, I think they're going to come to request a transfer of funds within their line item to have the technicians come in and connect or place the furniture and put it all together. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that it was nice to get that gift from North Haven. I'm sorry if I believe it was North Haven, and I know Jim, Lieutenant Lovelace is here. It was North Haven, correct?
Yeah, North Haven Police Department.
Yeah, and I don't have the specifics, but it was for furniture for the dispatch center.
Exactly, yeah. It's
Okay.
the furniture they took out of their department because they're redoing a whole new renovation. So
Right.
it's probably worth over about $30,000 in total of equipment that was taken.
Yeah, and Lieutenant's working on the numbers. Don't know what that is. That's just giving you a heads up that we'll prepare that, and that'll be at a future meeting. They'll be coming to you, and that's the reason.
Take some time. But in all fairness, Chief Stewart was probably more instrumental in getting that equipment for us than I was involved, along with Deputy Chief Mulhern and of course DPW, obviously getting the equipment out of there. So they deserve the credit on that one.
Mike, I have one question. Mike, on the police officer notifying the flag man,
Yes.
didn't we have that discussion a while back? Like, I know we had a discussion about getting paid or whatnot, but aren't there some type of rules or regulations with that the police department would have, or
there's really not.
there's not?
I think that's what the commission is looking for, some flat rules and regulations on.
Yeah, because I always thought there was something in place, you know, to have an officer like at a construction.
Not in our town. There are in other towns, but not in our town.
Yeah, well, I think with respect to construction, if they're working in the road, right of way in the road, or tearing up, and I know as a matter of practice that, you know, Kurt Weiss engineers involved and directs them to the police department for those proper permits and so forth. But I think this is going, my understanding is it's beyond in terms of like your utilities, your electric companies, anybody working on wires, working on trees, or maybe even the cable guys, Comcast, those folks, those
So I
companies that are in
guess
town.
it's the ones that aren't pulling a permit per se, because if you were pulling a permit, I would think that would start that process,
Right.
possibly,
Right.
with a construction company. Yeah.
Yeah, I would think on that, but there's probably some things like some, you know, I don't know if it's tree removal or what, that, you know, maybe wouldn't
Right.
require a permit, I don't know.
Or SNET or cable.
Right, yeah.
And-
Right.
All right, next item is community events and presentations. Have none listed. Next is citizen statements, petitions, and correspondence. Okay, next is resignations.
Mike.
I'm sorry. Yeah, just had a few comments if I could. Chris Kranick, 49 Cortlandt Drive. I just wanted to follow up a little bit about the last town council meeting when we were talking about economic development. It took me a couple of days after that last meeting, but it occurred to me that Councilman Rose made the argument for a part-time economic development coordinator better than I could have made it. It's precisely because we don't have I-95, I-91, Route 1, a railroad station, that we need an economic development coordinator. We need that extra effort. For all those reasons Al so eloquently stated. So I would like to work together with Al to make North Branford the best it can be, to embrace what we have. And if North Branford is unique, it doesn't mean it can't be more successful. I think a lot of good things are happening in North Branford on the economic development front. There's a doggy daycare that has an application in P&Z to move into the old Save and Discount location. They're coming in from Milford, Connecticut to do this, into our town. Dr. Asaria, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct, the veterinarian expanded his business on Route 80. The other veterinarian in town moved in and beautifully renovated the old Twin Oaks pharmacy location. Dalton's renewed their lease. J Cake's renovated and expanded into a new location. All this is occurring, you know, despite there's those sewers and, you know, some of the other things we've heard. So I think the votes are here to have this happen for our town. So I would ask that it be amended and put on the agenda and another vote is taken. Thank you.
You know what, Chris, before you go, since you brought up me, thank you for, you know, giving the credit where it's due, you know, and helping out. But I do want you to know, you know, I don't, you know, I'm not a slacker. I'm willing to do the work. And I'm gonna give credit to, and Michael's involved with this, and so is Carrie. And probably it's gonna come to you, but, you know, our town clerk's office, the town clerk and the assistant town clerk came up with an idea that, hey, let's, and this may go nowhere, but like you said, it's better than nothing. They were thinking, you know, if we wanna go to a Trader Joe's, we all have to go to, where is it, Milford or Armitage or somewhere. You know that they're looking this side of the Q Bridge to come here, okay? They're all over the country. So, reach out to them. So I know that the town clerk, she ran it by me, and I said, well, how do you do it? You know, and she goes, well, I'm gonna go to Michael. So she went to Michael and said, hey, what do you think of this? I called Carrie, and while I'm on the phone with her, she's on their website and says, wow, they have a application, I want a Trader Joe's in my town. So then her and I had a conversation, it's like, well, you know, should the town planner be reaching out to a company like this? And then is it like, and I forget exactly how she put it, she goes, are we gonna get yelled at because we told some company, hey, come to town, we're looking for somebody like you, maybe it would fit in Central Plaza or where the Little League field was or somewhere, but just to reach out to corporate for companies that we might think are a good fit. And I'm sure you guys are doing stuff like that too, but I just wanted you to know, I haven't given up on the town, okay? If there's a good idea out there, I will support it. I'm just not sure what a $25,000, I'm gonna tell you this too. People that have asked me about this position, I said, we don't need a $25,000 economic development person, we need a $100,000 economic development person, okay? So that's where I am on this. It's like, if you're gonna get someone, I just can't buy into, I think it'd be throwing $25,000 away, because I just don't think they'd have the hours. But stuff like this, and I know somehow, economic development and Michael, if we can think of companies and reach out to them, I think that, that could be done, and maybe that's what the $25,000 a year person could do. But, I don't know. I don't know if we have the votes.
I think we do. I look forward to working with you when we have the economic development coordinator.
Okay, I'll be counting on what they bring to town.
Absolutely. But I think, the small steps that the EDC has taken over the last couple of years has bared some fruit. And I think a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. Sure, I'd like a $100,000 position.
Yeah, me too.
But, and I also want to mention the town visitation program from Coventry. That's on the front page of the Sound. I mean, what a great way to identify and bring the town together, something like that occurred. It highlighted the farm brochure, which has been really popular. And it's not just the bringing of new business, which of course we all want, but it's keeping the business we have and also building a brand for North Branford. And that farm brochure, is in that direction. The town signs are gonna be in that direction. I mean, this is how you pick up momentum. And I really think that if everyone got behind it, instead of kind of fighting, we would certainly, there's such an opportunity to make North Branford even more unique and more successful. And I think the part-time position is the first step on that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move into resignation and appointments.
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add item D1, Police Commission appointment with possible action, reappointing David Hall to remain on the Police Commission, term to expire 12/31/20.
Second.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, where are you putting that?
7D1.
I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add item D1. Police Commission appointment with the possible action, reappointing David Hall to remain on the Police Commission, term to expire 12/31/20. Sorry.
So we say D1. That's how I'm writing.
All right, resignations and appointments. Resignation of Sarah Crawford from.
Hold on a second, there was a second.
Yeah. All right, roll call? Or any discussion? Roll call?
Well, so does it come after the D appointment?
Yeah.
Exactly where is it
It
going on
really
the
should,
agenda?
it really should be D, it really should be F.
So I'm just not clear. D1, so is it following the appointment of Fred Auger to replace Dave Hall?
Well,
Yeah.
D1, then the next one would be D2, right? Well, now you got two Ds. It's not D and D1, it's D1 and D2 now.
I don't, just for,
No, you
Matt,
can't do
just
that.
for
That-
purposes of the agenda, just, is it,
It's
the
gonna-
concept being
no,
is that.
It'll
D-
have to be F.
It has to come after D.
Yeah.
That's why you put it as D1? But
But that's
because.
what-
No, we're trying to play a game here.
Oh. I didn't get the instruction.
It could be F. It can't be D1. All right, so it'll be F. Appointment of David Hall to the Police Commission. Term to expire 12/31/20.
So it's a reappointment.
Yes.
Reappointment.
I think it's that.
Be seven up.
Change it.
It's placed on the agenda.
Yeah, 7F.
He was trying to beat this, he was trying to beat this guy.
Roll call.
Slide of 7M.
But he doesn't have to do the motion again and second it again.
Parliamentary, I don't know, does he have to change the motion, or is it just gonna be slotted as 7M?
I think as a matter of where it sits on the agenda is not something that, the motion was to amend the agenda to include an item. That was seconded. And so now you can vote on that. Where it actually falls on the agenda, I don't think is necessary to be included in the motion. So I think you could just simply vote, and if the motion carries, then it can fall to the bottom of the appointment, as the mayor had indicated.
Mayor Duty?
No.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni?
No.
Counselor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Miller?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Viglione?
No.
All right, resignation of Sarah.
There's one more.
Who else?
Tom?
Oh, Counselor Zampiano, I apologize.
Yes.
All right, and at this moment, I guess following up the comments that were made, I'd like to add, make a motion to add to the agenda item under unfinished business, and make a motion that we add review of part-time economic development commission, economic development coordinator.
So I.
8-I.
I'll second that motion.
What was the motion? I'm sorry.
Economic
Review,
Development
economic
Coordinator.
Review.
Yeah.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Miller?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Viglione?
Yes.
And Counselor Zampiano?
Yes.
Okay, resignation of Sarah Queerfelt from the Board of Education. Sarah sent a letter in on February 15th. I'm resigning from the North Branford Board of Education effective Friday, February 16th, 2018, due to personal reasons. I've been honored to serve on the Board of Education for the past several years. I'm confident that the current Board of Education will continue to seek excellence in our school. Sincerely, Sarah Queerfelt. Next is resignation of Colin Johnson. We also put in a letter, effective immediately, I resign as a member of the Ethics Commission. Signed, Colin Johnson. Appointment of Cynthia Rice to the Board of Education to replace Sarah Queerfelt, term to expire 11/12/19.
So moved.
Discussion?
I need a second.
I'll be second.
I'll second.
Oh, sorry.
Roll call.
Mayor Duty?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Counselor Viglione.
Yes.
And Counselor Zampiano.
Yes.
Next is appointment of Fred Auger to the Police Commission to replace David Hall, term to expire 12/31/20.
So moved.
Discussion? Roll call?
You need a
You
second.
need a second.
Bobby? You're missing that second.
Oh, sorry, second. I'll second.
Roll call?
Are we gonna have a discussion?
Discussion?
I asked. Nobody
We
said
have a
anything.
second for this discussion. I don't think we can do this. On December 18th, I sent a message out saying that I wanted to slow down the appointment of our first appointment to the police commission. And, because I didn't feel comfortable. And the response I got on December 18th was, we had to make that. We could not postpone it because their next meeting, they were gonna vote chairs, and then they'd be locked in for 2 years. So by saying that, that leads me to believe that this is impossible, because they've already voted in their chairs.
In the past, I haven't seen that as an issue, that when they reorg,
No.
but I could be, I mean,
I never seen that as an issue.
Well, I'm not, I don't know that it's an issue. I was told by the mayor it was an issue.
Yeah, we wanted an appointment because we wanted, Republicans on the board. We certainly didn't leave it open to
Be aware that the
anybody's
next
choice.
police commission meeting, they will pick the chairperson for the next 2 years. If we don't have control of the board, then there may be a Democratic chairperson in Republican control for 2 years.
Right.
That's what you said at 9:28 PM. So
Yeah.
I don't see how we can make this change, because they voted in their chairs, and David Hall's a vice chair.
Well, listen, he's an unaffiliated voter. It's a Republican slot, so we could fill it anytime we feel like filling it. There's no restriction on filling a Democratic or unaffiliated slot with a Republican. I mean, the town attorney could answer that one.
Just saying what you told me.
Well, you must have misunderstood then.
It's in black and white.
You had 2 months to call me and ask me.
It's in black and white.
Yeah. No. Roll call?
Mayor Duty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni.
yes.
Counselor Candelora.
Yeah, I just want to know what was the motion?
It's for Fred Auger.
For police commission.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
No.
Counselor Fawnin.
No, no.
Counselor Miller.
No.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Counselor Viglione.
Yes.
And Counselor Zampiano.
No.
Next item is the reappointment of Elizabeth Kaplan to the Economic Development Commission to a term to expire 12/31/20.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Candelora.
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Counselor Viglione.
Yes.
Counselor Zampiano.
Yes.
Item number F, you had 5 votes affirmative on item number D, so item number
Correct.
F is null and void, right? All right, moving on, unfinished business, discussion and action, approval of proposed ordinance 2017-1, Chapter 40, entitled Fire Department Fees, tabled from July.
It's tabled until,
Tabled until July.
Until
until
July.
July of 2018, so that's.
Next is review of public hearing status, 1599 Foxen Road.
Oh, actually, that's also tabled.
At some point, this has to be discussed. We had a public hearing. The interest from citizens in town was for it to be developed as some form of town green. And if that's the case, following all of the discussions that we've had, we've got this piece of property in the center of our community, and we're not taking any action whatsoever on it. We're not facilitating any discussion. We're not moving forward at all. And this is very sad, if not an embarrassment.
You have any ideas on it, George?
Well, you know, I do, actually. Since people talked about it as a town green, I thought we ought to suggest perhaps some more input and open it up to some preliminary design. I would think that there are citizens in the community who could look at the piece of property and could have some vision of how it would how it would look as a town green that people would visit, and it might even include some of the art people in the high school. The kids could maybe make a project of it coming up to the end of the term. Maybe they could come up with some design ideas. We do have some architects in town. They might want to do it as a courtesy. But other people who drive by it and see it, and for all the people, you know, who grew up with that piece of property and love it, they might have some idea of how they'd like to see it for their children and grandchildren. And since there's no good offer or idea for commercial development, and the town has already held an open hearing, and that's what people would like to see, and frankly, I would like to see that. The only idea that's come forward has come in the way of putting a gazebo on there and walking away, and I think we can do a little bit more.
I think I would like to see something where it might be a mixed-use thing, where you might have most of it a town green, maybe a coffee shop or something, some small business there that would be attractive to people. You know, if I go to the green, I could stop at a Starbucks or something like, in other words, not
That's
completely.
reopening. That's reopening it, though,
No, it's
because
not reopening, because not everybody wanted it, it wasn't 100% that people wanted it to be a green. I mean, I think there's still the option to look at other possibilities, and that, you know, something small plus a green, I think that should be an option. You know, there were people that spoke in favor of developing some of it. I'm not saying a big, you know, box store, but something where you could have both.
Michael, you think you could get together with Carrie and see if they could drop and maybe touch base with George and see if they could drop something to put in the Totoga Times, that we're looking for, you know, ideas on what to do with 1599 Foxen Road for recreational / park purpose?
Yeah, I mean, we can do that. In my opinion, though, I think the council has to wrestle with the threshold question of whether or not you want development or you want open space, and I think that's unresolved. I think that's the first order of business.
I thought that was resolved after, you know, just.
Yeah.
We never voted.
Well, no, I understand that we haven't voted on it, and that's part and parcel of what this discussion is about. We haven't voted on it, we haven't taken it up in any way. It just goes on the agenda. And what we did is we had a public hearing, and we've never tackled it after the public hearing. So I'm suggesting that we tackle it. Mayor Duty asked me if I had any ideas, which I've weighed in on. You know, here it is, but
So I agree with George that we should tackle it. You know, paying attention to what the public input was, the simple majority was to leave it a park. I don't think anybody can argue with that, so. But it was not an overwhelming majority, so.
it
nobody
isn't
can
for an
argue that.
election either necessarily, but it was a majority, so.
It was.
So we can explore that.
It was.
And see.
But also, George, that's our one piece that does have, and I'd like nothing better than a green there. And I'd be glad to pay the taxes, but that's, you know, that's just me, that's not the whole town. And you know that, because I've been with you on this from the beginning. However, that does have sewer and water and frontage on the state highway, so it is
And gas.
possibly one of the more valuable pieces of land that could be developed. So, even though I'd like to see, every time I go, up north and you see these little towns with these gazebos and stuff, I'd love to see that there. But is that what's best? That's certainly not the highest and best use of the town.
Al, the decision at this moment in time is not, yes, we're going to do that. The suggestion that I made is, let's see what people's visions of it could be.
And I support you.
So, this hasn't either put it onto the Realtor's roll, nor has it taken it off.
Right.
It's simply a step to see if someone has a vision that piques your interest.
What
Works for me.
prevents us from exploring the option of using this land as public property, be it a park, a town green, whatever it may be? And I think, from what I've heard by way of ideas, a gazebo, a flagpole, these are not improvements that are going to prevent us from considering or accepting a commercial proposal for development down the road. And the cost of constructing those kind of improvements, if it was balanced against a substantial offer from a real developer as opposed to what we had the last time around, we might very well say, it'd be great to have a green, but if we can get X dollars for this property and put it on the tax rolls, practical considerations force us to do that. So why not explore the passive recreation idea, see what can be done for what kind of dollars, and keep open our options to develop the property if the right proposal comes along.
Works for me. There, Michael, you got your answer.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I think we're supposed to have a public hearing.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
just finishing this
Oh.
discussion and then
I
going to it.
wasn't sure whether, because it was on
No.
the other side.
All right, we're continuing our public hearing on the proposed purchase and ordinance 2018-01. I think we had some language change on that, right, Michael?
Yeah, they're, right. I know that Counselor Fawnin had suggested it got to the town attorney, and that was incorporated in there, and I think it's just a matter of whether or not there's any public to hear in terms of the hearing, and then, which I don't know that anybody is or not, but then you can continue with your discussion on the drafted language, which was discussed at the last meeting.
Okay. We're gonna open up the public hearing to the public for the proposed purchase and ordinance 2018-01, if anybody has any comments.
So just to let the public know what transpired based on the council's discussion during the last public hearing, the biggest thing was that the council still had voting privileges on whether they were gonna do the piggyback competitive bidding, and also that we made sure that it was the like product or services that they were going out for. So the town attorney did draft some new language to put that in there, and it reads, "The town council, by a majority vote of the members present at a duly noticed meeting, may authorize the purchasing agent to purchase supplies, materials, equipment, other commodities, or non-professional services from a vendor who has been selected as the lowest bidder for a like purchase within the prior 12 months by another public agency, using competitive bidding procedures that are substantially similar to those utilized by the town when the best interest of the town would be served thereby." So that was the revisions made based on the discussion that the council had.
And are you making that motion?
Well, no, the public hearing's still open, so now the public knows what the changes were made based on our discussion, so if anyone wants to comment, they can. And not, then.
Any comments? Okay, we'll close the public hearing.
That said, I make a motion and move that the town council approve the proposed ordinance 2018-1 entitled Purchasing.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Candelora,
No.
Counselor Diamond,
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Rose,
Yes.
Counselor Viglione,
Yes.
Counselor Zampiano.
No.
Okay, next is Future Budget Planning Initiative.
I have nothing at this point.
Review of Ethics Ordinance.
Before we go
Okay.
by it,
This was on the agenda at my request, and it was on the agenda from January at a meeting that I was not there, so they kindly just extended it. So I went back and looked at the January 16th meeting, the agenda, to see once exactly what it was. And the only thing that was there is our current ethics ordinance, okay? And the reason that I had asked about this is that there is no code of conduct for elected or appointed members to boards and commissions. The Ethics Commission, the ordinance, the way it reads now, basically deals with financial issues. And what I was looking for was something when there's actions or words that are inappropriate from an elected board member behavior. If somehow that can be incorporated into the ethics ordinance. And I'm not exactly sure how that would work, and I guess I'm looking for the town attorney to
Right.
give us some guidance.
Okay, so part of the suggestion, I guess, what we could, that we could employ to advance the concern is if there are specific things that there are concerns about, conflict of interest because of pecuniary interest in someone's business that may overlap with town business. If there's actual behavioral concerns, someone has a propensity for using foul language at public meetings, and we think that's unbecoming of a public official, and we want to curtail that and actually make it an ethical issue. Those are the types of, I mean, for me to go in blindly and create a code of conduct, I don't know what the code might be, because I don't know what the concerns are. So it's not necessarily saying, well, I'd like the ethics commission, I'd like the ethics code to be changed to say X. But is there specific, what I was looking for is there specific behavior or conduct that is of a concern that I might then be able to go and do some research and say, all right, well, they address this in other communities as follows. We can make the following recommendations. So, because code of conduct, again, Is it what a person's wearing? Is it what the person's saying? Is it how the person is presenting themselves? There's still conduct, it might be verbal, it might be nonverbal. So I'm looking for more guidance on are there specifics as to what you're looking to regulate? And, you know, I mean, if there's input that I can get, or if there's not specificity that I can get from council members, and if you want me to go back and review the surrounding towns' ethical codes to say, all right, in these communities, they address codes of conduct as follows. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean just because it is something that works in Branford that it's something you should have here. So that's why what I was looking for by way of input from council members is, are there matters of specific concern? And if there are, you can send me an email offline, we can discuss it here, we can carry it forward. But I just wanted to, instead of me blindly going and
Okay.
creating something for your community, I wanted to get a little bit more input.
Okay. All right, that gives me
Yeah.
guidance.
So, yeah, so if there's anything, we can keep this on the agenda, you can just send me an email with, hey, I'd like you to come up with something to address A, B, and C. And then when we come back and we actually present something that may, for those who don't have input now, that may spark input at that point.
Okay.
But this would be ultimately a public hearing because it's an ordinance that would get changed. So that ultimately the public would be able to participate as well.
All right.
I may misunderstand the way you used a word or how you defined it, but did you say that a code of conduct regulates behavior?
The question is, and the short answer is, of course it does. We regulate, there's plenty of codes of conducts, you know, lawyers' codes of conducts regulate behavior, how you must conform yourself within a specific setting. So that's why I was trying to discover what is the matter of concern that needs to be addressed in this community that's not currently being addressed. If it's a code of conduct, what do you mean by that? Is it someone's coming to public meetings in ripped t-shirts and we think that's unbecoming? Is it someone is speaking a way that they shouldn't be speaking? Are they overtly confrontational with their fellow board members? Are they creating, are they engaged in what would be generically unethical behavior that we want to regulate? So I'm trying to understand what exactly the concerns are so that I can see if it's something that can be captured within a codified set of rules. So I don't have enough information.
But what would the end result be that we're looking for? Do we know that yet, or we don't know that?
Well, you don't know where you go, where you're gonna end up until you know where you're going. And that's part of the, I mean, the end result normally with a ethics commission, when they review a violation, they are empowered to do something. It could be a reprimand, your code currently allows for the removal from office if there's a violation of the ethics codes. So I think that
Okay.
we'll have to look at the entirety, because you may say, well, look, if we're looking to regulate verbal, behavior, maybe that's not justified, a violation of that doesn't justify removal from an office. But maybe a reprimand so that they get the fact that they need to conform to some baseline of behavior. So that's why I'm trying to understand exactly what the concern.
So somehow the code of ethics has proved inadequate?
It doesn't cover that.
It basically
Right.
covers fiscal, right?
Correct.
Problem.
Yes, the code.
Are there complaints that have gone to the Ethics Commission that the Ethics Commission has been unable to address?
Well,
Because of
a
that?
complaint couldn't be made to the Ethics Commission because it wasn't covered under the ethics. What occurred wasn't covered in the Code of Ethics.
If I could-
Because it was verbal.
I see.
I think basically and I'm not tell me if I'm incorrect, but I think what you're looking for is verbal behavior action at a meeting, basically, how they behave verbally.
Correct. I mean, it was, the reason I brought it up is because it happened to me. from another elected official, and it was verbiage that was very uncalled for from one elected official to another in public forum. And there is no recourse or reprimand. I mean, it doesn't mean removal from office or anything like that, but there's nothing in our ethics code that allows for any kind of slap on the wrist, per se, because it doesn't cover anything like that. So that's why I brought it up. I had talked to Lisa Valenti at the town clerk to see once what it covered, was this an area, and a complaint could not be made to the Ethics Commission because it's not covered right now. So I'm looking for an avenue to see if there is a possibility. If it dies, it dies. If it doesn't go through, if there's an amendment and there's a public hearing and it doesn't go through, fine. But I just thought it was something that, and not just for the council, but any board or commission in town, because we also did have incidences during the propane hearings with actions and things that really no complaints could be made because it didn't fall under the Ethics Commission. So I just,
Almost became criminal.
so that's the reason that I brought it up.
I just spoke to the town attorney, and he said he has some samples of what other towns have as far as their ethic ordinance. Maybe we could get a couple samples and look them over and see if there's things that we like, or things we don't like in them, that maybe fit our town.
Yeah, and then what you'll have to do is, again, evolve depending upon what you want for your community. For example, very topical for where we're at, but if an elected official were charged with sexual harassment in his or her workplace, should that affect his or her standing as an elected official if it did not relate to town business? Some communities would say yes, other communities would say no. So ultimately, it will be up to you to say what fits best for this community and how you want to be guided.
I don't think we've upgraded our, ethics ordinance in many, many years. So it's probably time we take a look at it and see if we get updated a little bit.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'll have something for presentation at your next meeting, and then something for you to consider.
Thank you. Next is review of Board of Education rules of policies and procedures and policy.
So I'm gonna pull a page out of George's book and say that, we've been carrying this now, we've got the answers, I guess we'll call them, from the Board of Ed, 3 or 4 weeks ago. And so I think that we need to either act on this or not, and get that cloud off of the Board of Ed and the superintendent. So, see Marie, with having said that, there's still some things that bother me. And so what I'm gonna be looking for at the end of what I say is for the town council to direct our town attorney to look into a couple of things. So the first thing that bothers me is that there's a history of this, and it was in 2011, and I'll keep it as brief as I can. But in 2011, this council called them out on it, and the same thing. We had the town cyber bully, and we had board members, and they all called us names, and lo and behold, they had to correct it. So we do it again, and they do the same thing. They call us names, they attack our families, just because we're saying, well, you guys are doing this wrong, you can't do it wrong. And we actually had a vote to send it to the state's attorney's office out of frustration, because it was wrong, it's a lot of money, and it needed to be addressed. So in looking at what the report we got, what the Board of Ed did was they corrected everything to date. Now, that's not right to, so now you're doing it in arrears, so to speak, because, wow, we did this wrong, we better vote to correct what what we did so that it's not wrong anymore. And I know I had a conversation with the town attorney early on, and he said, you know, it doesn't matter when the board takes action, as long as they take an action, and I won't put words in your mouth, but as long as they take an action, even if what they did was in question, the question goes away. Do you agree with that, or?
Yeah, I'm sure, I'm still synthesizing.
Okay, so you think I'll continue on. So a couple things bother me. Both the superintendent and past board chairs, you know, they were adamant that their attorney told them what they were doing was fine. You know, it was within the law. And what they were doing is the board chairs were acting alone, giving benefits to different administrators over there. So nobody out of North Branford ever thought you could do that, but apparently they did. So I would like to have our attorney talk to their attorney, because he's still their attorney, and see if he still thinks that's correct, or maybe he didn't ever think it was correct. But if that's truly what happened, I would think that our new current board would want to know that, hey, you got an attorney that's giving out bad information and gonna get you guys in trouble again. So that's a big concern of mine. The other thing is, can it happen again? I know the board changed the language. They took out some things that they shouldn't have had to, but they took them out so that people couldn't hang their hat on them. Like the will of the board, they thought that the will of the board was, you know, they were misusing that. And I know they eliminated that in that report that we got. But they, you know, one of the things that really bothers me is how, and maybe Anthony can answer this, how does payroll pay somebody? We heard that from day one, the superintendent didn't have a copay on his insurance, but his contract never said it, and I may be wrong by a year or two, but his contract never said that until 2015 or so. So how does payroll, I mean, doesn't payroll have to follow somebody's contract? So that's a question that I have. Was somebody telling payroll to ignore the contract? And then other than that, you know, I'd like him to look at the corrections and see if this administration can do this again. If they have weaker board members or board members that just don't understand that they can't act alone and that he can get benefits given to him by just the board chair, you know, we can't have that. And you know, I need to be assured that it can't happen again.
I thought, unless I'm wrong, that they revised their policies and adopted new policies so that that couldn't happen again.
But what's to prevent them from revising them again to put it back in?
I don't know that, that's why I wanted to have him look at it.
No, but didn't, am I wrong? I thought.
and
They
see if we
did.
can do
Yeah.
that.
But their policies and procedures, and so just as they fixed them now, I don't know that there's anything to prevent them from 6 months from now looking at that policy again and revising the policy,
long
because
as-
that's theirs.
Right.
As long as they have 4 members, a majority, they could
Right.
probably.
The reality, and also the reality is a policy is only a policy. You know, a policy is more of a guideline rather than something that is regulatory or you must adhere to. So I think to Al's question, generally speaking, without action of the entire board, no action should be followed where there's a deviation from current allowances. So clearly, regardless of what the contract provides, if you have a majority of the board voting in favor of it, whether it's a good vote or a bad vote, meaning that you're in favor of the vote or against the vote, it's the will of the body because it's the vote. And so if you had a superintendent or another employee that was looking to get a modification of their agreement prior to the time to negotiate that agreement, if you have the will of the board expressed through a vote of the board, there's nothing you're gonna be able to do to avoid that action. If your concern is that you may have a weaker chair or maybe a chair who is who maybe is green and doesn't appreciate the process yet, they haven't become learned in the process, then I think you need to make sure that the back office or the financial office, the business management side has protocols in place to avoid changes being made without board action. Otherwise, without having something in place, like a check requires 2 signatures if it's over a certain amount, then you're never going to be able to sleep at night knowing that this can never happen again, because it could, if you don't have the protections in place on the payroll side. So, maybe it's something where any changes to payroll have to be approved by 2 people.
So I'm gonna put Anthony on the spot. So Anthony, can Michael walk down to payroll and tell them to, hey, give me,
Certainly
give
not.
me 5 vacations and change my insurance? And does the payroll clerk do that?
No. I would go back to Attorney Marino's comment. We typically rely a lot on backup documentation. So we don't have many one-offs on this side. I mean, most of the folks are union folks and the administrators are all identically treated. But if Michael said, okay, I got 5 vacation days, show us the minutes. We use the minutes of the governing body as the backup. There's very few situations on our side of the fence that there are one-offs that are not covered by some kind of contract or treated unilaterally the same across the board. Who else? Police chief. Police chief is governed by the police commission. If they award him additional vacation days, we get a copy of the minutes of the police commission before anything is done. Also, the point, there's 2 signatures. On any payroll authorization, change of rate, whatever, the department head as well as the town manager signs off before the payroll clerk processes anything. If it's a town manager situation, then it's the minutes of the governing body that we use as documentation to verify that that is the action that wants to be taken place. So could it happen? We're not perfect. I won't say we're perfect over. We make mistakes. But the situation that you're referring to, I don't think can happen over here pretty readily.
Wouldn't happen over here.
I would never say never, but I would say it'd be pretty difficult.
It shouldn't have happened over there. So I think that the biggest concern is still that they still have this attorney, and going back 4 or 5 board chairs, every one of them was adamant. Our attorney said it was okay. However, in both cases, when the town council called them out on it, they had to vote to correct it. So I would really like, at the minimum, to have our attorney kind of, because, we tried to bring their attorney in to ask him these questions, and we got told he doesn't work for the town of North Branford. But maybe he'll listen to our attorney. And if he could talk to him and find out exactly whether, because, for me personally, if this attorney comes back and says, I never said that, then I think that we as a body have to look further into, okay, where are we going with this investigation? If he comes back and says, I don't know what he says, but I just think I'm gonna look at it differently if the attorney doesn't agree with the board chairs saying that he was always telling them, because, and then there's 2 sides to every story. Was he telling them it was okay, or was he trying to figure out, how do I get these guys out of trouble? And that's where I think a conversation with Vin and maybe the guy will refuse to talk to Vin, and if he does that, hopefully the Board of Ed will fire him, but,
One of the things that I would like to add to what you're saying, because it is such a new board, I know we don't have the right to say this, but it would be interesting if Vin asked if somebody from CABE or from the State Board of Education came down and gave a workshop for those folks, because they are so new, and have it be someone other than the current board attorney, CABE certainly has those services, and so, because they are an arm of the State Board of Education, and I think that would help to some extent, because those people are new.
I think you're right.
And they don't have a lot of the background. I would strongly ask that you put that in as well as a strong suggestion. Not the board attorney, but somebody from CABE
Yeah.
or somebody from the State Board of Ed.
And I want to be perfectly clear. I don't think anybody was doing anything wrong that they didn't believe they could do. So I just want to say that. Somebody was telling them that they could do it.
From the point of view of this conversation, though, I'm just unclear whether you are only looking forward or looking back on the past practices, because two things. One, as Marie pointed out, they did make some policy changes, and my understanding is that the board members are fully aware both of the policy changes that they themselves made and the issues that have gone on. So I'm kind of wondering if this conversation is wholly necessary, because I have great confidence in at least the members of the Board of Ed that I know that wouldn't be continuing that kind of a practice. So,
Again, they still have the same attorney that every one of them threw under the bus.
well, again, I have, not again, because I did.
So, and he's
weighed
going
in on-
forward at the moment,
but-
George.
But, sorry?
He's going forward at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a fine idea. Why not? At least find out what the answer is.
Get his side of the story.
Yeah, I don't have much issue with that. But I don't see that kind of practice that was alleged surfacing again. So,
I would hope not. But I didn't think it was gonna happen after 2011, when we basically went through the same thing. And, we didn't go as far, but the town attorney, straightened them out. And in what they saw in 2011, their attorney told them they had to vote and correct things. So, or at least the way I read it. So, I just feel that if we've got four past board chairs saying that the attorney said it was okay, and he's still their attorney, and the board changes, or this, one of the administrators over there takes the board chair aside and says, oh yeah, this is okay, give me four more vacation days, or give me, I wanna get pet insurance, and you can sign this, it's okay. So I think that, for me to put this to bed, I need to hear from that attorney, or have him deny talking to our attorney. But again, I'm only one, so it takes where the rest of you are.
I think too, going forward, you wanna try to make it better or improve the system so it can't happen. Right? So, I know they made changes in the policy and whatnot. I don't know exactly what those, changes are or how they're enforced, but I think that would be the goal to, going forward.
I agree.
So maybe you can have that conversation, like, maybe he is working on, or has worked on something to make it better or improve it.
Is there a consensus of the council to have Attorney Marino contact the Board of Education attorney?
Absolutely no reason not.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
You got it.
Okay.
Great.
Anything else, Al?
Nope.
Next is review and approval of RFP for the ECG Group for Energy Savings Performance Contracting.
It was tabled, I'm not sure there's any interest in going forward or not.
This is the group out of Long Island that was gonna do an energy, I mean, there was the whole, I wasn't pleased with some of the issues in their contract language tests and everything else. I personally don't know if there's any way we can really measure what they say they're going to do without having huge capital outlays in order to get those kinds of savings. And I just don't know that we're there.
There's a ex-citizen of town, Mark Deming, that said he'd donate 60 hours of time, his time, to work on our rates and policies and, you know, procedures. If the town, I mean, felt, he's reduced rates, electrical rates for numerous towns that he's worked in, and I think, he said he'll do it for free, so I think it's worth a shot.
I think we should bring him in and talk to him. He's good.
So maybe we could
I
schedule.
don't know, Al, you've objected on any number of times to getting what you pay for.
I agree. But I'll always take something for free.
Well, I understand that, but, you know, here.
And a lot of times you get what you pay for.
Yeah, you get what you pay for.
So, I mean, we could
But you know
listen,
what?
we
He
could
is
listen to him.
He is a known entity, and, you know, I've heard from other towns that where he's done it and got paid, but they've had good results. So I think he's worth talking to.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear who you said it was.
Mark Deming. He works for Branford, Trumbull School Systems. All right, so we could schedule him for,
I'll reach out and, yeah, it's be the desire of the council to at least, put it on the next agenda or wherever his schedule permits, to come before the council to explain what that
So
would.
what is your request, that he make some sort of a proposal to us as to what he's going to do?
no, just he comes before us and tells us what he could do for us.
And there's some sort of investigation done by him without cost to us and without a commitment to engage him further.
Right, if we wanna engage him further, he'll donate 60 hours of time to work on our project.
To look at the buildings.
To fill out the paperwork, you know, for,
So there's no upfront cost, we're just considering his proposal, and there may be some cost savings there for the town. Probably have an obligation to listen to him.
it's his business, so he understands it well. All right, moving on.
Mary, did you?
I is review of townwide sign program. H, review of townwide sign program.
Yes, there's some information in your packet. The town planner and rec director got together and have put forward some information with respect to signs, consulting a couple of different sign companies. And it really, I think it's gonna come down to a discussion on, obviously, two things. Your design, in terms of what you wanna see on the sign, and then, of course, the material that you wanna take what you wanna buy in terms of, you know, a hardwood, redwood sign versus PVC. So they've been collecting some information. The thought was just to start very basic with trying to replicate the existing signs that have been out there for years with a simple, you know, blue on white background. The ones that you've seen and the one that Fran brought in here last time is of is a red wood, so they're more expensive than if you went with a vinyl PVC type of option. So just trying to kind of lay that out in you know, design feature that would not include the seal because it hasn't in the past. So I think the thought was to keep it uniform and just keep it the way it was, just getting new signs. So the uniformity of having all of the entrance signs and 7 signs for the park and rec, plus there's a few communication signs as well. But really kind of get your feel for whether or not you want the higher price of the redwood signs that were previously around town, or going something a little less costly with the PVC sign that would more than likely take you through a majority, be able to, it would be affordable under the PVC option to get more signs than it would in the redwood, using the redwood sign. There's obviously, we still have that tourism fund, that's approximately 21,000 in that. So the option for B and the PVC would get you more bang for the buck, so to speak, more signs.
So looking at this memo and doing some calculations, it appears to me that if we use the PVC signs with the pressure-treated posts and caps and did all the park signs as suggested, it could all fit under the monies available in the tourism fund. Is that correct?
Close. I think my math is, I think if we're looking, I think the different math is that I factored in the installation quote as well. I'm not gonna burden and throw Fran out there in terms of, I'm sure he'd prefer not to do it, so I factored in the 300 on the high side, 300, and came up with the PVC of 2,200, just about 2,500 per sign. If you did 7 of the entrance signs, you would have enough for 7 entrance signs and 7 park signs. On the high end, I did the park signs at the high end of 500, even though I think Carrie had somewhere close to 400, but you could get that done. The reason you'd probably want to hold one back is we couldn't do all 8 right now anyway because of the issue with Route 1 on the Branford line, that they're going to do that whole roundabout issue with the state there. So that would leave you essentially one short that you could pick up in the budget for this budget season for July or August, whenever. But it would
Okay,
get you-
so the discussion really is that if we want to use, if we're willing to use the PVC signs, it's affordable, and we have the monies for it. And if we want the redwood signs, there's more money that would be needed.
Correct.
Okay.
Anything, Carrie?
You're welcome, Carrie.
Thank you. No, everyone's done my work for me.
No, and I'm sorry, and Lauren was a part of this in terms of the commission, I believe, has been briefed on it and is working with us to try and get that uniformity in terms of having the sign, the same look replicated, either, obviously in a smaller scale, but to do that so it's uniform throughout the town.
All I have to add is, this is an older photo that just shows clearly, shows each of you what the original redwood sign looked like. It's an old marketing material, and then this is a sample of the PVC.
Yeah.
So, again, as Mike mentioned, we started with the white, the blue lettering on a white background, just because that's what the town currently had.
What's the fade factor in that, Carrie? Did they give you
It's actually coated, you can barely see it, but it is coated with a protectant, like a UV protectant, so it doesn't yellow.
Okay.
And that sign is good for about 10 years because the vinyl lettering does need to be waxed. But, so there is, low maintenance, but it's fairly maintenance free. And the redwood signs, I think, had been in place for at least 15 years, maybe even 20, Fran?
Was there an issue with some of the entrance signs? I know that because they're all state highways, basically, where they would go, and we need DOT approval, was there any issue with getting DOT approval for the size of the sign that we wanted to put up? Or have all of those locations at one point in time have a sign that?
Original sign,
Yeah.
I don't think we ever got approvals for even for a month.
I spoke with DOT about future locations, and we would just have to fill out a permit, and then there would be a maintenance agreement that we would have to do, but I think most of the locations, if not all of them, Fran's has already been mowing them, or the property owner has. So if you look at the entranceway from the East Haven side, Dave Palumbo owns that plaza, so I think it's his staff that actually mowed that area. So, but we would need to get a permit with DOT for each of the locations in the right of way.
Okay.
And that would be both for the welcome signs and the park signs.
Well, the park signs,
They may be on a right of way, say for North
Okay.
Farms Park, right, on 139, pretty wide right of way.
okay. Even though it's town property, because they're all, most of them are all on state highways, the parks, the signs would be,
Well, the sign would be in the state right away, though.
Okay.
So that's actually not town property, so that's why you need a permit.
okay.
Like Norfolk Park is off the state, property.
And
It's on our property.
Totucket Valley probably as well. It's town.
Is the 8 feet a little bit long?
That's what the originals were.
Yeah, I'm asking a
It
question.
Yeah.
probably is long for a few of those locations. I don't think you're gonna fit an 8-foot sign in there. You're gonna
And
fit
so
an
this is just, Franny, help me out here, this is just AZEC with stick-on vinyl letters?
I believe so, yes. What a
For how
whole-
much money? They're 2,200?
Yes,
Each?
that's for the pressure treated posts.
Well, well.
So with the pressure-treated post, is that with a vinyl sleeve on top of the post?
It says with
Yes,
PVC
with
sleeves.
PVC. sleeve.
Okay, see, I didn't read it.
And caps.
And keep in mind also, I mean, these are just looking at companies that were working with us to get some numbers generated, and obviously this is going to be well over the cap or the threshold for bid, so we'll have to put together a package, to bid that out.
Personally, I think aesthetically that shortening them up, making the letters fit on 6 feet might look better, but
And you can do it, it's just, that was a suggestion, that's what the other ones made. We just kinda kept it.
they were long and low. Now, the older ones were all low to the ground, were these gonna be up higher,
No, they were going to be just like the current
lower to the
signs.
ground?
Yes.
Does it make sense to have 8 signs?
Welcome
Like-
to the town of North Branford.
Well, for instance, the only reason why I'm asking is, I see one for the green across from Rite Aid in Norfolk. But based on this list, you can't get to that green without going through it by a sign. You know?
Right.
No matter which direction you come in, that's that's the only reason why I'm asking.
Well, that one isn't indicating to say welcome, it's just indicated to say Northford, you know.
Yeah.
It's a
Oh,
location
okay.
sign.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't.
That's
Now,
it.
were we,
I didn't read that
speaking
over
of
there.
Northford,
Thank you.
somebody gave Franny a map of the town in what, the 1700s? 1800s, and it actually, how's it list Northford? It says, Northford, the village of North Branford.
So I think it was town of North Branford, village of Northford. So just switch the word.
And then would you put, most of these towns put a year when they were, and some of them, and it's funny, because some of them are when they're settled, some of them are when they're incorporated, some of them are, you know, established.
That's why we left it as they were before, which did not have the town seal, did not have an established or settled date, just to keep it simple and straightforward.
Because we don't want to give up years, and we were established when Branford was in 1644. So it drives me nuts when I see a few signs like the late 1700s or, you know, it's like, no. It was one piece of land. So that's why we're not putting a date on it.
We didn't want to
'Cause
drive you nuts.
we were established in 1644.
The only other thing that I'd like to see if we do signs is that we put a ring, you know, bring the concrete out around the post farther, like a foot, so that it doesn't get whacked with the weed whackers and whatnot. Because the plastic will get chewed up. If it's wood, it'll get chewed up.
We can definitely put that in the quote. I mean, when we put the RFP out, that's one of the things.
I think it needs to be done, because you can see the signs even in Orchard Center, I was looking at Lauren's signs up there, they're about the size you put a whiteboard on. All cut all the way around, so. And I don't wanna paint either, so. I might have to whack, but I'm not painting.
And signs that, like, routed in, they were real expensive, routed letters.
Yes, so you'll remember
They look
many
so
months
much
ago,
better.
right, those are about $5,000. Those are for the wooden signs. They require more maintenance as well.
That's what we saw in the signage for Wilton. was a nice sign, we all liked it.
With the gold leaf.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
See, and I liked it, I liked Wilton's too, I liked the reverse color, I would like the background dark and the letters. Light.
And that is an option. I think that's one of the questions
I'm
that we
just saying
had
what
for
I
you.
liked.
Right. Right, yeah. So I'm trying to present what the information that we've collected to get some feedback on where to go next. If you like the current layout of the blue lettering on the white, or should we switch it, and then the materials for ideally going out to bid.
So
Just-
here's the thing,
Yeah.
George, do you think we liked Wilton because it was gold leaf letters? Or did we like it because it was the dark background and the light letters instead of this way, you know?
I think it was.
Franny, you can make one of these, do a mock-up for us. We want it half dark and,
You're absolutely right.
I know you could make one. All right.
Right, so in order to move it forward, so that we don't have to keep coming back to this, I would like to make a motion that we go out to create an RFP for, so what are we doing, 8?
We could do.
What, 7 welcome signs,
Yes.
right? 7 welcome signs. With the, I guess option B, the PVC number 2. That's what you were talking about, the pressure treated posts with the PVC sleeves. And how many park signs? 7?
7 is on here.
Okay.
So then-
Seven park signs.
And then also listed under the park section, as Michael mentioned, there's community event signs. So there's 2 in Northford by the gas station. Those are the signs that list the events that Park and Rec is hosting, where you slide the letters in.
Yep.
There's currently 2 there that really need some refurbishing. And then there had been one at the intersection of 80 and 139 that the state took out but never replaced. So the goal was to try and get those 3 built back in.
So we have 2 in the exact same location?
On the island, but we have one as you're coming down the hill from Northford, and the other one as you're cutting through between the gas station and over to the fire department.
Okay.
They're not, they're 2 separate sides and one side.
One
So-
side is spaced about 10, 12 feet apart, so catches, people coming in, catches people coming out.
Is there any way that you can make that one sign double-sided?
Well, there are 2 different locations.
Well, yeah,
One's
I
on
mean,
one's on the green, right, and then one's on the little triangle.
No,
Both on the triangle.
they're both
They're
on the
both on the triangle.
same little triangle. I think the issue is sightline in terms of fences and poles, I think.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's why they can't be together. You obviously could do it double-sided, but
All right.
it doesn't work visually.
Okay, but you said the tourism fund only had enough money.
Well, it has 21,000, so if, based on these numbers, if our RFP comes out and responses.
Okay, so
we-
let's
we
include
hope-
them all.
Yeah, and see.
And if we have to, I know the Park and Rec Commission had a priority list on, if we couldn't do all of the park signs, which ones to start with first?
Correct.
Because there's some parks that have no signs,
Correct.
some have signs, but we could just do those at a later date to match if we didn't have enough funding on there. And I guess for sign design, I like Al's idea about shortening them
6 foot.
to 6 foot, which may save us some money also.
Well, they're gonna have to come up with a design for you anyway.
Right.
They'll make a suggestion, but before they make.
And they'll have to see what the letter size does
Right,
with that.
before they make anything.
That
they're gonna have
was
to
a
do
motion.
Right, that was a
Right, that we
motion to
approve
go
the
out to
shop
RFP
drawing.
to include those.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Candelora.
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Counselor Viglione.
Yes.
Counselor Zampiano.
Yes.
The only thing is, when you write that RFP, we wanna have it so that on our shop drawing approval, we wanna have, and they can do it with the computer, show us the dark background and light letters and light background and dark letters.
Is that reflective too or not? Next is a review of part-time EDC coordinator.
Yeah, well, again, the presentation from Chris Kranick suggests that we ought to bring that back onto our agenda. It seems to me that we're crying out for help in half of our conversations, and then arguing that we shouldn't do it in the other half. There are plenty of businesses that are going to benefit from any kind of energy that can be marshaled on the behalf of the town, whether they're existing businesses or bringing in new businesses, but just from the point of view of existing businesses. An economic development person who is out and about and trying to make contact can certainly speak about the development that's going on in town already, whether it's the orchards, or the farms, or the farm breweries, or the wineries, and the things that are already going on, as well as from the small businesses who are, and there are a couple of bakeries on the North Branford end of town that are garnering awards left and right, and are very popular. And those are just the ones that come to my attention. But somebody out and about making those contacts, I think, has got to be very productive for the town. And I guess I thought the argument needed to be put forth again. And I guess I'll just see where it goes and make a motion that we hire at 19 hours a week, a part-time economic development coordinator.
I'll second your motion for discussion purposes anyway.
Discussion?
So we have the 25,000 that is in the budget. But that was for one job, so I know we talked a little about this last time, so I'm still unclear. But I guess realistically, maybe because we didn't do anything since July 1, we would have enough money. So say our grant, because we're paying our grant writer if they ever write a grant, and this person, all with 25,000.
Well,
But we have that money just till June 1st, is that
June 30th.
right? Or June 30th, rather.
that's something that's going to have to be considered for continuation.
Right,
You
we're
know.
gonna have to do that with this budget.
Right. Now, Rose made an important point, but I'm disagreeing with it because I don't think it should be an either-or. Public Works needs help, too.
But my point is more, it's funded in the budget up until June 30th.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it doesn't get funded in next year's budget, to hire, by the time you advertise now and hire, the earliest you would have someone on board is April 1st, more like mid-April. So that person might only be here for 2.5 months, because if it doesn't get funded, then it's not there. So my suggestion is that we look at it during the budget season that we're going into, and if we agree to put it back into the budget, I did not approve of the funding source last year for it. I would prefer to just have it in there as a position and not take the money from an account that runs in the red, add it as a position, and if it moves through the budget process, we can start interviewing, advertising, and hire so that the person's on for July 1st or pretty much there and they're here for the whole year, rather than trying to hire someone that might only be here for 2.5 months and then the position's not funded.
The way I'm thinking of the timeline, and please correct me if you think I'm wrong, is that by the time we write a job description and solicit resumes and have an opportunity to review those, you'll already be substantially through your budget preparations, and you'll know whether or not the funds are there to continue the hiring. But in the meantime,
you won't know until May when you have budget referendum.
we won't know that, but we'll certainly know preliminarily what the numbers look like from the numbers that come to us, and we'll just have that much of a jump start. So, I'm just trying to move something forward, Rose. That's what I'm trying to do.
And I'm just looking at it from the perspective of that the position is not funded for next year at this point in time. So to commit to it now, you can only tell that person that the job is until June 30th.
You haven't committed to anything. You've sent out a feeler to see if there's anybody who's even interested in being hired, and if you get the sense that the person would be a benefit to the town and the town's businesses.
It's just, it's not funded beyond June 30th at this point.
Well, that's a given. We know that.
Right, so I have a hard time advertising, and that's just me, we can take the vote, but to hire and advertise for someone in a position that could not exist on July 1st.
Well, maybe we don't hire them. Maybe we just do a look-see to see what's out there and what candidates we get, and then we can decide, you don't have, just because you put it out there, doesn't necessarily mean you have to hire.
That's the same thing on every RFP. We're looking for bids, we're looking for candidates. We're not obliged to hire one of them. We're obliged on our part to hire the best one, but if you don't find one that's suitable, or your funding sources fall through, it says it all the time in RFPs, contingent on funding sources. So I'm just trying to go a little bit more quickly than perhaps
Well, we do
you're
have a
comfortable
funding
with.
source right now, but it's only good until June 30th.
Yeah.
So that's
So
the
we're
problem
not-
that I have.
So presently, we're not doing it in bad faith.
So,
So. So I'll call the question.
Anybody else? Roll call?
Mayor Duty,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni,
no,
Counselor Candelora,
No.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Rose,
Yes.
Counselor Viglione,
No.
Counselor Zampiano.
Yes.
To reiterate what Rose said, though, this person has to realize that they may not make it through next year's budget, or this spring's budget.
Moving on, new business, discussion and action. Grand List 2017, Dave Ambrose, Assessor.
Mr. Mayor, Dave is unable to attend tonight. He was out sick today, but you do have a very elaborate report that he prepared for you. I asked maybe you could table this to the next meeting, if you could attend.
And also the audit, you're going to cover that?
No.
Michelle Loso is here from Seward and Mondi
Okay.
to address the
All right,
2017
so
audit.
motion to table the Grand List 2017 to
So moved.
next meeting.
Second.
Discussion,
You gonna go?
all in favor? Or roll call? Sorry.
Mayor Duty,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Candelora,
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Rose,
Yes.
Counselor Viglione.
Yes.
Counselor Zampiano.
Yes.
And next is Stewart and Mondi annual audit presentation.
Good evening, thank you for having me. My name is Michelle Loso, I'm partner in charge of the North Branford audit. Just to give you some highlights, it's an unmodified, clean opinion on the governmental activities, business-type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the town of North Branford. There was no material noncompliance with laws and regulations reported, no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses over financial reporting reported. No federal single audit was required this year. This is probably the first year in a number of years that happened. The threshold was raised 2 years ago to $750,000. This year, the North Branford federal assistance came in at $724,000. So that was a federal compliance audit that was not required. The state single audit was required this year again. Again, an unmodified clean opinion over compliance with the major programs. There's about $9.5 million in state assistance received. About $900,000 of that is subject to our testing in the state single audit. Most of the exempt programs, the $8.6 million, is for education programs, mainly ECS and special education reimbursements. Your bonded debt this last year, including capital leases, decreased about $4.7 million, generally related to scheduled principal payments. There were no new bonds issued in this last fiscal year. Your net pension liability increased about $390,000 between the three plans, the town plan, the police plan, and the volunteer plan. There was minimal investment gains, some plan changes, and both contributed to that increase. The net OPEB obligation, which is basically your post-retirement medical coverage, currently not recorded at its full liability on the statement of net position. That will change in next year's financial reporting, depending on how the assumptions are selected by management and the pension committees. That could range between $4.5 million and $6.1 million that'll show up on the statement of net position. It is a number that's always been disclosed, not only in the notes, but in required supplementary information in the financial statements. Your overall fund balance in the general fund stood at $8.6 million, approximately 17.1% of your 17-18 budget. It was an increase of about $500,000 over the prior year. Generally, the result of favorable expenditure savings. I know the town council has had about a 15% target on your fund balance, so you are currently slightly over that. Your unassigned fund balance of $7 million represents approximately 13.9% of the 17-18 budgetary expenditures, and your target there is 10%. So again, slightly over your targeted levels. Revenues to budget, approximately $287,000 over budget. There was no use of fund balance required to balance the budget in 16-17. property taxes mainly were over budget by $322,000, mainly in supplemental motor vehicle and conveyance taxes. Expenditures, again, under budget by almost $692,000. Generally, across the board, all departments showing and contributing to that savings. I think one of the issues I talked about last year was the new self-insurance health and dental plans that contributed to some delays in getting financial information out of Anthem, and then corresponding delays in getting information here. That seemed to be much better this year. Another year under your belt on that. The claims for retirees are going through the OPEB trust fund. Claims approximated $4.5 million, which was less than the maximum claim liability at 120%, which was $5.5 million. There was about $1.1 million that was covered under the stop loss provisions and the premium under that. There was additional money, again, transferred from the town and the Board of Ed to establish the risk corridor related to that. Again, there's a management letter. Most of the issues that we've had in the past have been addressed. There's also a letter detailing our responsibilities, management's responsibilities. If we had any major adjustments, audit adjustments, which there were none, or disagreements with management, happy to report there were none. Again, want to thank Anthony and his staff for their cooperation in getting everything done in a timely manner. Obviously, it's a big project and takes a lot of their time. And I'll address any questions or comments.
I just have one question, and it's just on unresolved prior year recommendations.
Yep.
And I see here that it's, again on here, and it's the Personnel Rules and Regulation Manual that has not been updated for over 30 years. So I really think that is something that we need to look at. And I don't know if this comes from the town manager with recommendations back to the council, or if this is something the council looks at and in a subcommittee form first with people. I just don't know how, but I think we need to address this issue. It's been over 30 years.
Yeah, I agree, yeah, and 30 years is it's gonna be an undertaking, and do you prefer, I don't even wanna mix it with the budget process, or wait till we get clear of that or just dive in?
Well, I don't know, I since it's been over 30 years, I think we should get through the budget first, and then we can look at that, because that has more of a time constraint on it.
Right.
A definite timeline, and then this is something that we can start tackling after that. But I really think it needs to be done and addressed. And, I mean, maybe in the meantime, you can send us this. I don't know how big this document is. Just so that we can look at it and see what it looks like now. And then when we do start meeting on it, we can probably.
The best I can recall, I think a past manager made an attempt, I think it was Carl Kilduff. So there is some base work there that I'm not sure where or how, what happened to it, where it got derailed, but, and I can pull it out.
Okay.
Start from there and start laying the groundwork.
All right, I mean, that's fine. But I do think it's something we need to do. And there was also something in prior audits for the last couple of years. It was roughly 48,000 on the Board of Ed side.
Yep.
I don't see any notes. Was
No,
that all resolved?
That was all resolved and brought back into the town's.
Okay.
I think it was done in two pieces. I think ones we identified eventually, and then the second step was, I think this past year.
Okay.
I'd like to recognize Michelle. This is her 5th year with us, and it was a 5-year engagement that we had with Stuart and Mondi. And her and Andrew and the staff have always been very easy to work with on our side, and appreciate their efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is review bid award RFP number 7, 2017-2018 fire station emergency standby electric generator.
On this issue, there is, as you recall, I believe the allocation was for 60,000, is that?
60,000.
60,000, so there is in this number areas in which could be reduced through the work of Public Works, and I think the chief and Michelle Knockwood and Fran have all been working to knock that down to get to the allocation price that they had done. The same company, I think, did the same work at the generator at the company 3, so.
So the new price would be $57,000 and a $3,000 contingency or whatever.
Yeah, I think
To
that's
hit-
what they're,
Hit the 60,000.
yep.
There'd be some costs that Fran would incur for like the concrete, things like that, so 60,000 should cover the whole package.
So your recommendation is to go with Northeast Generator of Connecticut on there? With the site work deduction? So that is feasible, Franny? I mean, okay. So do we have to make a motion, or just, you just
Yeah,
automatically do?
no, I'd like to see the council make a motion to approve that, so we can have for the record. We're continuing this cycle of reviewing and approving bids, reviewing and approving
Okay.
bid awards.
I'd like to make a motion for on RFP number 7-2017-18 Fire Station Emergency Standby Electric Generating System to award the contract to Northeast Generator of Connecticut at,
60,000.
right, well, to them, to the Northeast
Yeah.
Generator, it would be 57,000. That, the original bid was 67,390, and there's a deduction of 10,390 for site work deductions done by the town.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Candelara.
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Counselor Biglione.
Yes.
Counselor Zampiano.
Yes.
Next is bid award RFP number 6 phone system upgrade to the North Branford Police Department.
Yeah, there's also an issue with this one as well.
Okay.
In terms of the information or the background that police department did, Lieutenant Lovelace looking at the low bid and the issue whether or not that they would have any issues complying with that equipment and installation. And department, I believe, feels that Frontier would be the appropriate vendor, and obviously would require a motion to skip over that first bid to go to Frontier, based on some information that the lieutenant had done with respect to the product and/or concern that they may not be in business to service this particular phone system. And I know Frontier is the current supplier or service corporation on that. So obviously Frontier was not the low bid, and we would have to have a reason to jump over that first bid, or we'd have to go back through the process.
I'd like to make a motion for RFP number 6-2017-18, the phone system upgrade for the North Branford Police Department, to award the contract to Frontier Communications at a price of $8,461.97 for the reasons noted in the memo from Lieutenant Lovelace.
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion?
I would like to know where this other phone system is located in the state, what other public service agencies are using this phone system, and I'd like to have some information as to how well it's working, rather than have it just in the form of this memo objecting to it. It's coming, the business is coming out of bankruptcy. A lot of places go bankrupt, a lot of people go bankrupt, a lot of business people go bankrupt, and reemerge stronger. I don't know where this this particular system has failed. I think I saw something about our own Park and Rec being dissatisfied, but I don't know if that's the same system or whatever. So I'd like a little more information about it.
Any other discussion?
I don't know, I'll have to research that. I don't have an answer for you, Counselor, unless Lieutenant does. We have to
So,
research.
and then, before you speak, Jim.
Sure.
I just would, just add to that, so, and I had the liberty of asking him a question too. So if we can jump over a bid like that, we have to really deem this guy as not a responsible bidder. And so you feel that we can hang our hat on that with what the bid specs were and what they bid, we're all good saying he's not responsible? Or his bid wasn't a responsible bid?
I think the biggest difference is the difference in the product. The Mitel phones, well, Avaya had just come out of bankruptcy, and whether they survive or don't survive is way beyond me. That was just one of the things. I reached out to parties that had no connection or to this bidding process whatsoever, because they're more knowledgeable in the phone system world, I guess is to say. And this was more of the information I get back from them. The biggest things were that the Mitel system is ranked just below Cisco, which is Cisco's, I guess, considered the top of the line brand in phone systems. That was a huge difference comparing the two phones. Avaya is not even in that spectrum of a phone system. So it's really what you're getting for the quality of the product you buy. You get what you pay for. The service contract for the Avaya system is going to be at least $1,200 a year. The Mitel system is going to be about $850 a year. So over the course of time, you're going to make up that extra money you're spending if you were going with a second bidder. Or the two are going to equal out at some point, and you're going to surpass the number two. So that the highest quadrant that's rated for the technology world is it's called the fourth quadrant. The magic quadrant is what they actually use. And it goes Cisco, and then it goes Mitel. Another big difference is if I have a problem with the phone system and I call Allied, the problem for me is Allied comes out and they say, no, it's Frontier's problem because Frontier's line's coming to the building. Now I call up Frontier. Now Frontier comes out and they say, no, it's your phone system inside, it's the phone system. So now I'm dealing with two companies that are gonna go back and forth, which is pretty normal in the vendor world of who's gonna blame who to fix what. When it's one company that handles the lines coming in and the system inside, I can streamline the issue, especially in emergency communications, where it's important to get those phone lines up and running, get the problem corrected, and we can get it done with one service guy on scene that work inside the building and outside the building. The Mitel is a better system for a buildable product. It can be converted to IP in the future. It has those extra features that I think will benefit us down the road. It's a system that has already been sustained through town for a number of years, and it just has a better ranking out there. I'm not sure if that answers all your questions. I know there's a big difference in price, but there's also a difference in what you're buying from what's out there. So all the reviews from what they get is, you're calling people that have their product that was installed, and they're only giving you a list of people that obviously are gonna speak highly of the product, right? So nobody on any of the lists from any of the vendors I called, spoke poorly about the product, because otherwise they wouldn't provide me with that information. The
But-
best bid
but
that's.
what happened is you put out an RFP.
Yep.
And this company with this particular product meets all the specifications of the RFP. Is that not what you're saying?
I'm not saying they don't meet the specifications, I'm saying the second product is a better product that we can purchase underneath that 10,000 mark that we were given, and that was budgeted 4 years ago, that I think will better service the town on a longer range scale than the Avaya product that we have. So whether the Avaya product goes into bankruptcy or stays out of bankruptcy or whatnot, I can't guarantee you. The Mitel Corporation, and Frontier is the #1 dealer in Mitel, not only in Connecticut but nationwide, has a better business record for sustainability that I was made aware of. And obviously, I'm not a phone guy, so I don't follow up on this on a daily basis or whatnot or throughout the years. But this is what experts in the field were relaying to me. So comparing the two phone bids, all of them suggested, and like I said, these were outside sources that are professionals in the field, suggested that you would be better off purchasing the better product at the price that it was quoted than you would at the lowest bidder.
Okay, but we still don't know where this other system is located and how it has performed.
It's located, whoever purchased the product, whether it was a town hall or a private company or whatever it is.
I'm talking about public service agencies.
Yeah.
You know, do we know of police departments or fire service or emergency communications that are using this product? And can we get some information about that? I think that's my question.
Okay.
I think it adds a lot of value that we're already using Frontier, and that Frontier, because I could see,
Yeah.
I could see the issue where finger pointing and everything.
Well, we had
I know
that,
Frontier.
we had that sort of an issue when we were talking about the roof at the school.
The what?
The roof at the school, who was responsible
Yeah,
for
we're gonna
what
create
work.
that same
So
situation.
I see that as being somewhat similar. On the other hand, I did hear the lieutenant tell us for the third time tonight, although in a different format, you get what you pay for. So in another instance, we're going for someone who's gonna donate their work product against
Joe, we're
against
talking
a
about the
company.
phone system.
I understand
I'm not
that.
talking about all this other stuff.
I'm
I mean-
talking about the process of a bid, Anthony. That's
I
all
know
I'm
it.
talking about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it sounded to me as though when Al asked his side question, that's exactly what he was talking about.
Yeah, the
Why-
lowest responsible
Why we
bidder.
can, under what conditions, we can jump a bidder.
Mhm.
And I thought Al was saying that the advice that Mr. Marino gave suggests that we should be looking for more information, and that's all I'm asking.
Hey, Jim, didn't you say there was a service charge difference?
Yeah, so it's a yearly fee after the first year. And Allied quoted me verbally at $1,200 a year, and Frontier said it'd be no more than $850.
Yes.
Lieutenant, do you think this is the best way to go? Your opinion?
My opinion is number two. In my opinion, what professionals have told me outside
Okay.
of this place.
I don't know anything about it. I have to go with you.
Yeah, but he said he's not a phone guy. That's why I'm asking. I'm certainly not a phone guy.
No, I'm not either,
You know,
George.
but
So I
but
think
if
we
it's
oughta-
work, if this system is in place in Hamden, and I don't know this, and it's working satisfactorily, I'd like to know that, or I'd
Right.
like to know that it's failed. That's all I'm
No,
saying.
I understand, and that's good questions.
By communication standards, they have to make the system work, from what I was told, for at least 5 years. After that 5th year, then they're not held to make that phone work anymore. So I don't know if that helps answer your question or not, but if they installed it, from what I was told, they would have to make it work at least 5 years, but if they don't make that product anymore after those 5 years, then they're not held responsible. But once again, I'm not an expert in the field, but that's what was communicated. Yeah, I can't be an expert in everything, so.
I'm not trying to fight about this.
You know, either am I. I'm trying to explain it from the knowledge I got.
Mike, I want to
So,
call a question.
I mean, it's easier for me if you guys have questions like this in the future, if you email me beforehand, I'd be more than happy to reach out and try to get the answers for you before we
All
come up
right,
here.
we got a motion and a second. Roll call?
I'm sorry, who,
I made the motion.
I seconded it.
and
What we're voting on, Donald,
The
is
Frontier
to-
number
the
2.
Frontier contract.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mayor Duty,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Candelora,
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
No.
Counselor Rose,
So I'm gonna say yes, but I'm voting on the number 2 base bid.
Right, that's what I.
Yeah.
Okay. So I said yes.
Counselor Viglione,
Yes.
Counselor Zampiano.
Yes.
Our next is review and approve of RFP 2017-18 specifications bulk food purchase for senior center.
Right, a draft is in your packet for review. Again, this was something that Lauren had been working on to try and get an RFP together to handle the food and paper goods within the recreation department and senior center, as we have exceeded the threshold in terms of what we're purchasing on an annual basis.
I make a motion to approve RFP number 2, 2017-18 specifications bulk food purchase for senior center.
Second.
Discussion?
I did. There's mozzarella in there. There's no brand name, but it does say mozzarella.
Roll call?
Mayor Duty,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Candelora,
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Counselor Viglione.
Yes.
Counselor Zampiano.
Yes.
Next is review and approve of RFP number 2, 2018-19 specifications for certified emergency medical technicians and licensed paramedic ambulance personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
So Chief, do we go out to bid every year? Is this Vintech? That that currently has the contract?
It is, they had the contract dating back to about 2005, and we maximize our contract capabilities by awarding a 3-year contract with 2 one-year extensions, so we're at that max limit.
Okay.
It expires on June 30th.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Candelora.
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni. I'm sorry, Counselor Viglione.
Yes.
Counselor Zampiano.
Yes.
G is tabled, Michael, until you get more information.
No, actually, G is the one, that is actually manhole fixes of actual.
Okay. Okay. So, review and approval of bid number 13, manhole elevation adjustment.
So moved.
Second.
You're
Discussion?
good with this, Kurt?
Yeah, definitely.
Kurt, I think there's like 13 in total for,
There's about 30 on.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Route
30.
17 up the northern section. Normally, you might get a couple a year, they take them over, but they take the whole lot over on this.
What do they, just gotta cut them out and then put the,
They'll come out and raise them. We do get reimbursed about 30% by the state for the work. But they put it on the town. It's about $30,000 for the work.
roll call?
Mayor Duty?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Miller?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Viglione?
Yes.
Counselor Zampiano?
Yes.
Next is financial report, January 31st, 2018.
See you later.
Financial report remains unremarkable. Again, the key items that I typically focus on, the top line, tax collections, 93.8 compared to 89.7 last year. Overall revenue, 87% compared to 81.6 last year. And our expenditures are slightly a few ticks behind last year, 59.2 compared to 59.4. Again, no departments are overexpended. Another great year in North Branford. And to echo the comments that Michelle mentioned, the finance department is heavily involved in the audit, but it's a culture that we've created town-wide. Every department shares in that philosophy of doing the best we can for the town as far as financial, restraint and making the best deals that we can. So while she recognized finance, it's truly a town-wide effort of all the department heads that buy into that philosophy, and I thank them all for their support.
Next is appropriation transfers.
This was secondary to a comment I believe that Councilor Rose brought up about the stocking of the legal notices. And speaking with Lisa, she needs a cabinet to do that. So this is transferring money in her department to acquire a cabinet to all the legal opinions. I'm sorry, legal opinions would be all filed in Lisa's vault under this new cabinet.
I'll make the motion resolved that the North Branford Town Council hereby approves the following appropriation transfers as recommended by the town manager and the treasurer, finance director, town clerk, data processing, $600 to purchase 2 4-drawer cabinets to house legal opinions and minutes.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Candelora?
He stepped out.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Miller?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Viglione?
Yes.
And Counselor Zampiano?
Yes.
Lastly is tax refunds.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Candelora? Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Miller?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Counselor Viglione?
Yes.
Counselor Zampiano?
Yes.
Next is citizen statements and petitions. Seeing none, we'll move to adjournment.
So moved.
Everybody in favor?
Who seconded?
Anybody opposed?
Aye.